I am the Professor Rick Del Santo. Of course, we've got a very special guest here today in Kaizo. Kaizo, what's going on?
Hello, Mr. Del Santo. I am Kaizo, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad to finally have you here. I love to have a lot of the young talent here from the area, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling on. Try to give them their first platform. I'm excited to have you here. It's an honor, I suppose, to have someone such as your stature. I've been watching you for quite some time. You've been working what, little less than a year, would you say, as an active competitor?
Yes, I would say less than a year.
Less.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how did you get interested in the wacky world of professional wrestling?
Okay.
Were you a
So,
fan grow? Were you a fan growing up? I know you're relatively a lot younger than someone such as me, but
okay, let's not do that much younger. Like, come on. Let's add some positivity here. Let's add yourself. All right. But long story short, I am a big fan of professional wrestling. I was a fan since I was a kid, and funny enough, not only was I watching, the WWE's, I was also and luckily, so because I'm born in the early 2000s, I was also around that era where you could watch WWE and um, I think it was like the first few years of TNA,
right.
which was my second favorite program. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I always loved watching professional wrestling in both ends because I think they both had their own different flavor, as you say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like me. I watch almost any professional wrestling that I can get my hand on. Really, it's entertaining. It's fun to watch. There's different interpretations of it depending on who's booking it, who's putting it together, and of course the talent that's involved as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So you got interested in it the first few years of the TNA. I think that probably when it was still part of the NWA, I thought it was a very good era. I discovered that one night myself by accident. I was living in my first apartment that me and my ex-wife got, and I was flipping through the channels, and I noticed on pay per view that there was an NWA pay per view. So what the hell is this? And I just decided I put it on, and I said, "Holy crap! This is probably the most." To me, it was very exciting being a lifelong NWA fan, and the amount of talent because it was, there's a gap there. There was no WCW anymore. There was no ECW anymore. It was basically WWE had taken over the world of professional wrestling, and it was basically became the number one and only product out there. So, and then here they were, another company starting up and trying to gain popularity and trying to help take the world of professional wrestling, give lots of um, young professional wrestlers or veterans a chance that would not have a chance to go over to WWE after the closure of ECW and WCW.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, TNA was always goaded for me. Even I still watch TNA to this day.
yeah,
Even I watch TNA. Like I said, growing up, I watched TNA, the TNA now, even though it went from. I won't lie. Actually, that is I won't lie. I did lie because I said I watched TNA my whole life. That is a lie because once they switched from TNA and then Impact and then I think they went to like a different route with Global Force and stuff like that.
right.
I couldn't
Yeah,
watch that. That's when I had it. I think that was when I had a break because that's when I was starting team sports commitment at the time.
yeah. It's weird because there's everybody has that break in professional wrestling. I just so happen to have it like 35 years in of watching professional wrestling. And, I was watching wrestling and I've told this story on various podcasts before. So I kind of lost interest when me and my first wife split up. But then when I met my second wife, her son was a huge WWE fan. And I had basically just rediscovered professional wrestling after like a 3 or 4 year absence. And it wasn't the greatest era of WWE, but I had taken him to a WWE house show, taken him to Raw and SmackDown, and I fell back in love with it. And that, as many times as I've said that on the podcast, on various podcasts, I'll say it again, that brought me to your home in Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, as I accidentally ran into your trainer, Paul Roman, at a gas station one morning. My first time ever meeting him. And then he invited me down to the school, and I had not been to an independent show in probably close to a decade. And then I
Wow.
ran into Big Daddy, who I had known for years prior,
Guilty.
and then now it's been since 2018. So to today, and then it just took a different route for me. I got heavily involved in the world of professional wrestling, and now look at me, look, now I'm a podcasting commentator and various other social media type person, writer, and for professional wrestling. So that's it took, and I've met some amazing people. Like this afternoon, I was just out there with this afternoon, me and Matt DeCourt out there record shopping. So so it
That
was one of the greatest friends that I've met through the world of professional wrestling.
Yeah, Matt DeCourt, bro. Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Matt DeCourt.
Yeah.
One of the like it's one of those things because I always say, and I learned this through training. There's more to professional wrestling than what happens in the ring. It's really much the
Hmm.
presentation,
Right.
and you can't like it's like what you said. You can't have you can't have a show like a wrestling. It's a business. It's entertainment at the end of the day. Even though some people may look at it as a sport, I kind of, in a way, look at it as a combat sport. But at the end, but it's still entertainment. You gotta give props to the producers, um, the managers, the announcers, the referees. You gotta give props to all those guys because they make the show. They make a showcase. They turn a showcase into a show, like a
Right.
marquee show.
Yeah, it's not just about the two guys in the ring, really. I mean, granted, who's also very important in the ring is the third man in the ring, the referee. Okay, that could completely make or break a match as well. So, and it takes all working parts in order to put on a fantastic show. And I'm glad that you referred to professional wrestling still as a combat sport, because to me that means a lot to me, because I'm a very big believer in kayfabe and the realism of professional wrestling and presenting it as if it is a complete legitimate sport. It breaks my heart at times when there's things such as deathmatch wrestling or comedy in wrestling and ridiculous in professional wrestling. I don't know what your opinion on any of that stuff is. To each his own, but I love the realism and it presented like it's a legitimate competition in professional wrestling. So, you know,
I mean, you're right because you're right. As far as my opinion when it comes to comedy or deathmatch per se, um, I can't say I hate it, but it's not what I. But it's definitely not what I turn on my television for.
hmm
But I do get. But you got to. But like I said, once again, it's entertainment at the end of the day. You got to give props because at the end of the day, you can't have like say like with Raw for example, you can't have 2 hours. I mean, you could, but you can't really have if you have 2 hours of TV time per se. You know, if you cut out commercials and stuff, you you have to give like the people a break because people are under put. That's why like I even in independent wrestling today we have intermission because people you can't have people glued all the time with every match. You
hmm
got to give them chances to use the bathroom or not even use the bathroom. Like get it, kind of also get a detox as well, because
right,
you know, because we can only handle so much. Like our eyes can be glued to only so much contact. Like even me when I study film, like, and I'm when I mean film, I mean like I'm watching like 60-minute um all Japan wrestling matches, and even though I'm amazed by stuff like that, I got to take a detox, and I say that not because I need a detox from that, but really because usually, and no offense to anybody else, but I'm the type of guy who will be watching wrestling and it could be like 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So I my intention my attention span may not favor into wrestling stuff like that, but I still will. And like I said, comedic and stuff like that, everybody plays a role in wrestling. Like
Right.
one big example I like to bring up: Ron or R-Truth, Ron Killings,
Right.
because and
Who's a brilliant man. Don't get me wrong. I've literally watched him since. I mean, I've seen him in XPW. I've seen him in NWA Wildside. This is all before his WWE peak and his TNA peak. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and like it's like what you said. Like when I watch, I remember watching. Well, I think at the time he was like going through different names, like Kid Quick or something, like different stuff.
K Quick, K Crush. There was a couple others out there. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I still was fascinated by what he was doing, and like even though, and like I was fascinated. Like I did a big pop. Like when he won the world champion, the NWA world champion, a big
Yeah.
pop because I think he was even at the time. No, and um, I'm all about equality, but at the end of the day, like he was one of the first African American champions at that time, and
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
that alone is a big deal to the culture. So when I look back at stuff like that, and then I look at what he's doing now, and you're like, it's not, it's like, it's way past the 180, but
Yeah.
it's still entertaining at the day. I love seeing his comedy work. Like I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I still get a chuckle or a laugh at it, so I can't be mad.
I think
you know,
that for somebody like him, he's going to crack you or get you to break character or make you believe in his character as just because he comes up with just like one liners that'll just really throw off even the non believers in the comedy style in a way as well.
yeah, and like he's doing it, and what I like what he's doing with it is he's keeping it out. I kind of like how he's doing it outside the ring because
Right.
it brings that attention to, like I said, like everybody needs a detox. You can't have 2 hours of in ring work. Not everybody's gonna keep their eyes glued to the ring 24/7. Like sometimes you, especially with a crowd, sometimes you got to make them pan to the Titantron and like see what's going on, because that's the stuff. And that's the stuff that actually builds storylines. You see the
Right.
backstage brawls, the the abductions, stuff like that. It all
Yeah.
matters.
Everything that happens in between. Now, my next question is I want to ask you about your trainer, Paul Roma and Mario Mancini. How did you come across these two gentlemen? How did you come across the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling training facility?
Well, research. That's the biggest thing. Um, so when I found out about Paul, so first things first, like I said, research. I found out through Paul Roma and Mancini. So I was looking up wrestling schools, and I was looking through stuff in my area. Um, I live in the Stamford area of Connecticut.
Okay.
Um, Another reason why, and
That's
once again, it's
far
another reason.
out. That's yeah.
Yes, yeah, but at the same time, it's another reason why it kind of add more love to wrestling, because the amount of times I pass by the WWE headquarters and I see that logo,
Yep.
and like every time I'm like, one of these days I'm gonna be a part of that. I always say it. But when I found out about Paul and Mario Mancini, it was through research. Obviously, I didn't approach them. I didn't call them. What I actually took a chance on was they had a show, an independent show going on. I think this was King of Paradise 2022, because I believe that's the one where Baylor one, right?
Yes. Was that one at the training facility still, or was that at the JCC? I'm
No, at the
trying to
training facility.
remember.
I think
It
it
was
was
at
the
the train.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I went there, saw the atmosphere, and I was like, wow. And I was hooked in every match. I had my phone recording, like I was. Shout out to Don Kincaid and Fogman. I had my phone. I had my phone now recording every match, like I was them, and I was like, and there was that, but I couldn't post any of that stuff because I was just watching, taking notes and seeing, and seeing what goes on, what's different about independent compared to the mainstream. You know what I mean? And I loved it from there. The guy, and I got a chance to hang back and see the guys. The guys were cool, especially guys like Marbury. I think I met Marbury before he was Jermaine Marbury. He was
Yeah.
cool. Kevin Kidd. I met a veteran. I even met the original Battle Academy. They were cool. Shout out to Hunter, Jake, Lorenzo, Skylar. Well, Skylar I see every day. Chris Battle I see every day. Well, not every day, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I miss those guys, Jake, Lorenzo, and Hunter. Yeah, met those guys. And I was like, so who's Mario? Because I'm sorry, no offense to them. I saw their pictures and I don't think they updated their pictures. I saw, because when you look up the
Yeah.
the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling um, training school, you see Paul, but you don't see the Paul we see every day. We see, the
Right.
prime Paul with the with the chest up like this, and
Yeah. It's
big
a
old
picture from 1989, is what it is. So.
yeah. And like I see, the only person I was able to recognize was Mario because he still had like at least a fragment of what he looks like now up on his page. And I
Right.
asked him like, "Hey, I'm well, I am my government name," and then he was like, "I would like to join your school." And he said, "Really? Okay. We have," and then he told me like these days, those days, and then I was like, "Okay, I could show up this day. I'll try to show up as fast as I can," because I told him where I was coming from. And he was like, "Oh wow, I used to live in Stanford," and I was like, "Wow." And yeah, introduced there, and then the rest was pretty much history.
Nice.
Love those guys to death. I love Mario and Paul. I always they get I always try to give them their flowers as much as I can.
Yeah. Growing up, I was a huge Paul Roma fan. And I don't know. And then to get to meet him and know him on a personal level now, him and both Mario, it's kind of an amazing feeling. You know what I mean? That sit there and be able to have conversations with them. Because when I was growing up, I was going to the New Haven Coliseum, which is literally was behind my current job, my office now. It's a parking lot now,
Oh,
but the Coliseum used to be there. I watched it from my job get destroyed, the Coliseum. So when they imploded it, but I used to go there and I used to see Paul and Mario all the time. My first was WWF TV taping in 1988. And to know those guys now, it's kind of amazing. It's like I never thought I'd be friends with guys like Paul and Mario. You know what I mean? That I watched on TV every Saturday and Sunday growing up. But do you ever go back? Did you ever go back and do your homework on either of these two gentlemen, your two instructors?
yes, I do. I try my best. Obviously, no offense to I watch and I watch them in stages. So when
Hmm.
because Mario will tell you how his career was, and regardless of how it was, he's proud of it, and as he should, because um, he 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 had to do a lot to get in there, and
Hmm.
to get in there is another story, but to stay there as long as he did tells you a different story.
Right.
And I always look back at his stuff when he tells me, okay, when you're going for something for a move like this or something like this is how you approach it. This is how I approached it. Watch this, and then I watch it. And same with Paul. As a matter of fact, I always try to I try to look back at Paul stuff and like try to add a little problem or homage on my moveset. I think like on my show on my match with Bano, I actually did his little 180 top rope setup for the Miss Frog Splash, but
Right,
I try
right,
my best.
right, right. So, you talked about studying tape earlier, and you mentioned All Japan. You're watching current All Japan, old All Japan, mix of both. What are you doing?
Primarily right now, I'm watching old old Japan,
Yeah.
because one of my good friends who I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, but he knows who I'm talking about if he's watching this. He put me on to a very prominent figure in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Sorry about that. And a man named Doctor Death, Steve Williams.
Legend, absolute legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. And yeah, I always watch his stuff. I always watch the pillars, the Kenta, and I mean, well, Kabashi. Let me say that because there's another wrestler named Kenta, which I don't
Right,
know.
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I always watch those guys because their style is similar to mine. I've always been a big fan of strong style because that to me is what adds the realism to professional wrestling for me. I've always fell in love with that style. And when I talk about strong style, I'm not talking about the one we see today where because everybody talks about the strong style is today is just a bunch of big guys doing chops a million times. No, like I'm talking about like kings, like real kings rope style wrestling.
Right.
And and kudos to those guys because they go at it. They're like my size or like like 250 pounds, and they go at it for 60 minutes. And right now, I'm struggling to do more than 30, and just in practice matches. So good, kudos to them because I always look at those and be like, okay, this is what this is what I want to be, and maybe put my own flavor to it. That's why I'm looking at their style and trying to add something to what I like to call Haitian strong style.
Okay. How did you come up with this? I'm assuming that is your background, your Haitian
Yes.
background.
Well, even though it's
Okay.
blurry, you
It's okay.
can obviously see
Oh, I
the
see.
Haitian
I
flag.
got you. Yep. Yep.
You can also see the Haitian flag. I only have it blurry because my room's dirty right now. I just did laundry.
You're good, man.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. So even though I won't tell you my real name, well, you know my real
Okay.
name, but I won't tell the fans. I'm known as Stacks in one world, but
Yeah.
in this world, in the world that they see, I'm known as Kaizo. And Kaizo, long story short, is the Haitian Hellfighter. Now, a Haitian Hellfighter, can you look that up and find it? No, because it's specifically made for me. A Haitian Hellfighter is pretty much is pretty much a pit fighter, someone that grew up a pit fighter, and he grew up under the tribes of ancient Haiti, like Haiti back when it was doing the same Haiti that had the revolution and stuff like that. And yeah, he grew up. Well, Kaizo grew up under the ancient Haitian tribes. And long story short, he had to fight uh, a lot of different warriors to get the name the Haitian Hellfighter. And the Haitian Hellfighter is pretty much the top rank in any warrior status you can get. I can like when you're the Haitian Hellfighter, you can go. You don't have to go under anybody. You go through. You go through any rank. It doesn't matter. General, soldier, lieutenant goes through all those guys, all those ranks, because the Haitian Hellfighter is not something not only you earn, it's something you fight for.
Right. Right. So, you decided that you would mix a little bit of, like, say, a shoot style, or shoot fighter, scientific fight, wrestling fighter. strong
Yeah.
style like you mentioned, so you're taking a lot of that and working it into your character, which I appreciate. I love and appreciate the character. I'm not gonna, I was talking to, and I'm sure, man, that you're familiar with, Uncle Otis, earlier today,
Hmm.
and we were talking about, how we appreciated the style because there's a lot of realism to it, and it's you don't get a lot of, if you I don't know if you're familiar with, like, say, the UWFI that was part of, like, the in Japan in the early
Oh yeah,
'90s. It was like
bro.
it was
Yeah, I
a
remember.
shoot.
I haven't
Yeah,
watched a lot of it, but I know what you're talking about.
yeah. I was a huge fan of it when it was around, and it was, it mixed, it's shoot wrestling, and it's like your character reminds me of something that would be in that. It was basically all submission or knockout. It was still a work, but it was basically, there was a point system, submission, grappling, stuff like that. And I appreciate that. And that's going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, how I appreciate the realism and such like that. And that's what your character reminds me of, is the realism, and that it brings some of that we don't see in professional wrestling all that often anymore back to the modern era of professional wrestling.
Thank you so much. I take pride in that. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, who's probably met a whole bunch of guys that know a lot more than what I do now. But thank you so much. Yeah. Long story short, I try my best with stuff like that because I admit I do watch film, but a lot of the stuff that I do, I've done in the past. Because growing up as a kid, my real my first sport was martial arts. It wasn't
Okay.
basketball or football. It was
What
martial
kind
arts.
of what kind of martial arts was it that you were doing?
Specifically, my first one was taekwondo,
Okay.
and um, I didn't really go in there as already was a fan. Like I grew up watching like martial arts movies, but I never really got into it. Um,
Right.
I went into taekwondo because I needed to learn self defense. I won't say why because that's personal, and I'm not trying to put anybody in a bad mood. So, but long story short, I had to learn self defense when I was like 5 years old because I was in the I was under some bad apples per se,
Yeah.
some rotten
Yeah, we all
apples.
go through that. We all go through that when we're younger. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's always a reason that we have to. That's why how I got into wrestling, not professional wrestling, but I wrestled in school, and
Mhm.
so that's how I kind of got interested in that. And I'm some people don't realize I can probably shoot on them, but I don't. You know
Whew.
what I mean?
Hey.
So
Oh
some people
yeah.
don't realize my athletic background because I never talk about it. I mean, I've mentioned it on the show here and there, but I've very few people know about it in the world of professional wrestling that I've spoken with, and they're kind of amazed. And sometimes I've been invited to perform in the ring, but it's been so long since I've worked, not perform in the ring, but work out with y'all. But it's been I'm a little too old for that, and I'm still like immensely out of shape. It'd take me a little while to get into shape to get the to get into the ring.
Oh
So
my gosh. Oh, I'd love to see it. I'll know. I don't care where it is. I'll be there.
no,
You
not
text
at
me.
almost not
You
at
text
almost
me. I
50.
will
I'm
be there.
not not
Oh
at
my
almost
gosh.
50. I think I'm a little too old for that. So, but let's talk about did I ask you how important is studying film? Like, I study film as well. As a commentator, I listen to the radio trying to work podcasting and radio, my radio career a little bit better. But as a commentator, I go back and watch a lot of professional wrestling commentators that I grew up with in the 1980s that I hold high up here, such as these might be names you're not familiar with, but guys like Bob Caudle, who worked for the NWA in the 80s, 70s and 80s, excuse me. Bill Mercer, who worked for World Class in the 70s and 80s. And I mean, Tony Schiavone, who's now with AEW. I grew up watching him in the 1980s. Like, he's one that I go back and watch. And, there's just a whole, I feel that tape study is very important because it's a way, especially, you think, as a commentator or even as a professional wrestler, it's a way to learn how to get better and watch. You know what I mean? I could learn how to say something in a certain way and show, oh, I'm supposed to show emotion here. I'm supposed to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. Say, oh, and then of course, I don't know, I'll steal somebody's line. I was like, that's a really good line. You know what I mean? I write it down and then eventually you'll hear me say it on one of the Coliseum videos or wherever I'm working.
It is important to watch film because, like our trainer always says, I don't know if I'm going to say it word for word, but he always says, um, what happened in the old days can be brought up as a new way or something like, oh, not that. It was something like, what was old in the past can be new in the future.
Right.
Something as far as that avenue, like
Right.
bring like because just the other day at training, he brought up how like if you bring you could still have basic stuff, but you could add your own flavor to it, and then it's like, oh, what was that? And it's like in your mind, it's like I just did the same thing I always do, just a different way.
Right.
um,
Right.
but yeah, film study is extremely important because even my MJF, who one of the most talked about names in wrestling today, he talked about how if you're in the game of professional wrestling, if you're not watching those who did it before you, and or you're lying and saying that you don't, but you actually do,
Mm-hmm.
you're you're kind of screwing yourself in a way
Right.
because you got to see what you've done it. And even though and even Paul, and I'm gonna bring up Paul again because I love him, but even Paul, I think when he told me he started professional wrestling, he didn't know what professional was at first. like he like when he got into that locker room or when he got into professional wrestling, it was because somebody told him like, hey, we should you have the body for it, because obviously he was doing bodybuilding at the time, and he's like, you should be a part of this, and he had no clue what he was getting into. And
He
it's
didn't care
funny
for
because
it.
he went
I've heard him
from
in interviews, and he hated it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
He thought it was it was fake, it was bullshit, and but I think he ended up, hey, this is a way to make great money, and he loved it. He ended up loving it and made some great lifelong friends. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, and it's funny because and it's one of those things which is why your words can only mean so much at that time compared to the future.
Right.
Because
Right.
how funny is it that the same guy who started off professional wrestling not knowing what it was, saying it was bullshit, like you
Yeah.
said, is now a trainer, one of the head trainers in one of the most promising professional wrestling schools, not only in East Coast, but in my opinion, in America. In my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's to me, it's one of the best, and I've like I said, it's near and dear to my heart. Those two guys are, I love them, and I love going to the shows. I love going in there to hang out just on a random, weeknight or whatever. It's been a while, so I'm gonna have to make my way down there. So but yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Tell me about some of the people that you've worked with there. There's a lot of really great students that you've worked there. There's a lot of really great fellow professional wrestlers that you've had the opportunity to work with. Yeah, so let me start off with this one. You mentioned somebody's name briefly. We didn't go into a whole storyline or anything like that. Let's talk a little bit about Alan Bano. He's trained in Massachusetts, but then he started making his way down to train at Paradise Alley from Springfield, Mass. What, in the last year, could I say? 6 to 8 months, something like that. I've known Bano quite some time. I had the opportunity to work with him countless times, and great guy. And I think he just shows a lot of promises and improved greatly.
Yeah. This is shout out to Bano because he's one of the guys that I always he was a great guy to work with. He gave me a lot, and mind you, when that match happened, that was I think at the time my third singles match. But yeah, he gave me a lot. He had it. He already knew what I did, what I like to do, and he gave me a lot. He gave me a great avenue to work with. That guy, Bano, he's a gem. He really is a gem.
He really is. Yeah.
Um, So, but yeah, as far as everybody else, everybody's great in their own way. I like to say, like, even though we talked about, we kind of had mixed feelings about it, but like when you talk about comedy wrestling, who
Yes.
who who's better at comedy at PAW as far as Alan Compass, right? And and
I love
and
Alan. I love Alan, but the character, and I'm going to be honest, and I told him straight up, the first year of his existence as a professional wrestler, the character drove me nuts, and I couldn't like the character. However, I even told him flat out, I said, he was also one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. Now, flash forward a year, the character got over on me. Honestly, it's like he does
yeah,
stuff that will make me chuckle, and I'm just like, I'm not supposed to be laughing at this because I take my pro wrestling seriously. But
yeah.
Alan is, he's a good dude. So
Alan's great. Even he told me himself like he knows it's all about strengths.
yep,
Not everybody can be, the not everybody can be that 2K player in WWE, No everybody can be
right,
that their 2K my player. Not everybody can, you know, have every title in the book in their first
right,
month. But
right.
everybody has their role. Everybody knows their strengths. Like I said, Alan with his comedy, Jeremy with his catch can wrestling, you know, Corey with his athleticism, um,
Who?
Nelly
I
with his
mean,
drive. Like, whew.
let's get into Corey for a second. We're gonna get into Jeremy as well. Corey is a gentleman. He's only well, he has more than a handful. But when I saw him, I saw his first match, and apparently, he's had a handful of matches, but now he's got more under his belt. I've had the opportunity to actually work with him in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Um, and for me, because the first time I saw him at his debut match, and I was blown away at how good this guy was at his first match, and you don't normally see stuff like that in your debut wrestling match. You know what I mean? It seemed there was. He seems like he is completely gifted. You know what I mean? And speaking to Roma about him, Roma was just, he's got a lot in store for him. The way it sounds, because I was wildly impressed. Roma's wildly impressed. I guess he picked it up really well. You know what I mean? Corey.
Yeah, yeah, that kid. When I first met him, like I was, like he already had like the aesthetics. I was,
Right.
he'll tell you,
Well, he
he'll,
wrestled from what I heard. Excuse me.
uh,
Sorry to cut you off, but according to the GOC, he wrestled in high school. Corey, or in school or something like that. He has some sort of amateur experience. Him and his brother.
yeah. I heard about that also, but like
Yeah.
what I've also known of him like was that he was a skateboarder as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, and it's funny how those two sports kind of worked out for him because amateur wrestling helped him in a way to understand like psychology, and then
Right.
skateboarding. Well, that just taught him not to be fearless. That just what wrestling.
Yeah.
I guess
I
that's
mean,
what he took from skateboarding. I guess.
yeah.
Um,
That's a scary sport to me. I mean, I don't have the
yeah.
balance for it. So, let's get into Jeremy Lacroix. The kid's got he's quite the character. He's got the arrogance, but he can go out there and back it up for the most part, and he will out wrestle a lot of people, and when he's out there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and he's another one. Mind you, when I both met these guys, I was in training. I was in training with them, and like they both brought something different to the table. But I knew the potential they had. Like I knew like because uh Jeremy, he when he first came into the school, he was ecstatic. Like he already said like how he was watching PABW before.
Hmm.
Um, so he did a little something there, but then he decided to fully come full time. Obviously, he had to work to pay for it, just like everybody else, just like me. And when he told me like what he wanted to do and how he wanted to approach wrestling, I thought why not? Like, cause one of the things, cause what he's doing is super different. Cause like we
Hmm.
always and that's what I think that's what makes him such a guy that you need to book. Shout
Hmm.
out to Jeremy LaQual. Like I said, I think he posted something saying like accepting bookings, so check him out. Um, but yeah, and that alone, like he and I talk a lot about like the all Japan stuff, and like while I talk about that style, I'm focused more me. You see more a lot more strikes for me as far as the
Hmm.
grappling goes. That's what Jeremy does,
Hmm.
and um and it's funny that we always talked about like how we could tear the house down if we had a chance, but
I'm sure that'll
uh
happen at some point or another. I mean, this,
yeah,
I mean, you guys are constantly working shows now
yeah.
in the area. I mean, he just made his Coliseum debut. Have you attempted to try to get into Coliseum at all yet, or is it your schedule, or?
So I've with Coliseum, well, with any booking,
Yeah.
it's really hard for me to get into a lot of bookings, and the primary reason for me is travel and work.
Okay.
So because me, I'm from, like I said, I'm living in Stanford.
Hmm.
That's already like an hour away from everything, an hour plus, an hour and a half plus with traffic. But I love Coliseum Pro. I love what they do. I love shout out to HOP and Sunset, you know, because they all helped me in their own way. But yeah, I'd love to tear it in Coliseum Pro because I remember talking about Coliseum Pro. Like they always talk about how it's a low ceiling, but that's only you're
Yeah.
only affected about that if you're a high flyer. Me, I'm not a high flyer, so
Right.
that
Yeah.
to me is like what the ceiling. Who needs a ceiling? All I gotta
No
do,
problem.
as long as I
Yeah.
can reach, as long as I can reach a guy with my hand, with my hand or my foot or my elbows, I'm fine. I don't care. So it's
Right.
perfect for
Right.
me.
Right.
And yes, so shout out to CPW. Shout out to them for real. Ooh,
Yeah, HOP gave me my first shot ever as a commentator, so I owe them the world because of that, and I'm very good. I love those guys, Nick and Huck Kim. And while I'm here, I'm going to mention this on the podcast now. We're doing a wrestling classic next Saturday, the 16th, in Springfield, Massachusetts. Check out the social media, and you'll see the flyer there for me and the HOP. And New Age Wrestling, of course, is going to be on board. We're all there together. So we got two tables. We're going to be sitting there. There's going to be lots of New Age Wrestling stars signing autographs, taking pictures, selling merchandise, and just come by and say hello. All right, back to the regular scheduled programming.
yes.
You mentioned HOP. I had to throw it out there. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great talent now. There's a couple guys that I want to mention out of Paradise Alley that are relatively new, and one of them just made their debut recently in Deuce, and he's just a handful of matches, literally probably 3 or 4 matches under his belt now, something like that. Am
Take
I am I off with that number?
give or take. I don't know the number either.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and he's a tall person, very tall, but the guy can move.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, he can move. Respectfully for him,
Yeah,
he's obviously he's played basketball before, and you could tell because,
yeah,
and if he would, and when I first met him, like I asked him if he played, and he said yes. I was about to I was, and even though like height has a stereotype, I swear to me, when I see guys that are like over 6'3" or 6'4", and I ask them if and I have to ask, did you what like when I first talked to him, I was like, so how many what's your highest like school what's your highest like career points wise or rebounds wise, and he was like, what are you talking about? He's like, basketball, you play basketball, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, thank God. So he told me, and I was like, okay. And because you obviously could see like, and not only in the ring but what he does, but obviously in the height, he's got a lot to offer. And
right.
athletic wise, he has a lot to offer. I think he posted a clip of him dunking the other day. Um, and yeah, Deuce, he has a lot of potential. I have I have the utmost respect for him because I've seen him been dying to get into the ring himself. So seeing him doing it and actually gonna be in the ring with him close. Shout out to once again. Speaking of November 16th, Paradise Alley, Mania in Paradise. You better be there, or else. but
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you about that match now before we go
yeah,
further. But well, let's ask. One of the competitors in that match is one of the men I wanted to mention as well, in Olgo Nelly, who's to me that kid's been lighting it up. You know, he just made his debut over the summer as well, and he's like I said, man, I love this guy. I think he's very entertaining in the ring, and he could really work too.
oh yeah, oh yeah, Nelly, pro, Nelly, another guy. Paradise Alley in
Right now, this
20.
is probably one of the best classes I've seen in quite some time out there. You know what I mean? It's just there was the class where it was Flash, Kylon, and then the class where there was the original Battle Academy, and then now there's all you guys out there, and I'm just like, man, you guys like it's there's just something special there with this group of people that are currently there. Me and the enforcer Kevin Saban talk about it all the time.
Well, yeah, because we all like. Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to get into the ring with those guys. Um, Not in the ring, well to train with said guys because they make because you have to be athletic to be a professional wrestler.
Right.
Like we're now in an age where, no offense to the golden era or the attitude era, but it's more there. And I'm not knocking down anybody. Obviously, I love bodybuilding. I'm trying to get some I do bodybuilding in the gym when I try.
Yeah.
But we're in an age now where physique can only carry so much. Like, you like I've seen a lot of guys in the ring. Like, there was very few guys that had the body, but they also had the athleticism. Cause I can never, cause I remember guys like I don't know, Scott Steiner. I don't know if he did bodybuilding before he was a professional wrestling, but
That I don't know about his pre-wrestling career, but he was always ripped, but then
yeah,
got even bigger and bigger as the years went on. So
yeah, Big Papa Pump. We already know the story. But
yeah,
but we're in an age where pro bodybuilding, professional wrestling, yes, it's important, but it's all about athleticism now. Like we talk, like if you talk about that class, like the Scott Steiners, the Paul Romas, well, they're athletic, but all those bodybuilding guys, they're great. But now we're in an age where we see guys like Kevin Owens, who, no offense to
right.
him, he doesn't have the most aesthetically body in the world,
No, but the
but you
dude
can't.
could wrestle, right? But yeah,
But he can wrestle. He could work.
yeah,
Same with guys like Samoa Joe, or Ricochet. Even though he's aesthetically he's aesthetic, but like he's not
yeah,
like these. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's about
yeah.
athleticism these days. So you can't. As much as I love the sport of bodybuilding, like you got the Ronnie Colemans and stuff like that. Like that can only like your physique can only carry so much. Like because we're because the sport needs more than just physique. We need athleticism. We need a story being told where you don't have to like just do a good clothesline and a really good headlock. We're past. Not saying we're past that, but times has evolved from then,
Right.
and so. But yeah, back to Nelly. He's he is, because shout out to him, even though I'm gonna wrestle him soon. I always give that kid props. One of the nicest
Yeah.
guys I've ever met. I I had the pleasure of actually going on the road with him to a wrestling show. I won't say because they haven't done us justice yet. But yeah, he's a pleasure to be around. You always can tell that he loves professional wrestling, not just being booked, but he loves showing up and making support. Like this guy, no matter he lives around the same area as me, not in Stanford. I won't say where he lives because that's not my authority. But
Right.
he lives
The area.
he
Yeah.
lives in the area.
Surrounding area. Yeah.
He lives in the Connecticut area, but he's willing to make trips to Massachusetts, Rhode Island, I th- Pennsylvania, New Jersey. He's willing to put in the miles, to show his face, show support, and he doesn't. And mind you, when I talk about miles and stuff, he's not getting booked. He's just going there
Right.
because, in his heart of minds, he's there to show support. Like just the other day, I saw him there in Massachusetts to show. I heard he went to Massachusetts just to show up, and gives Corey support in his match in I think it was Supernova, and
Okay. Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, I remember he worked there. Yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, that kid, he has the athleticism, and he's got this golden heart, and and his wrestling character, like go 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 go, like it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
simple, but it makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
gosh,
That's yeah, man. He's a good another good up and comer. So, let's talk about this match. We got a couple more minutes left. Let's talk about this match that you got next Saturday, November 16th. It's a 5-man scramble.
right.
Let me just pull it up. And we talked about every one of these guys individually, with the exception of one who's also a very important part of Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, the Red Lion, Chris Battle. But you're going to be taking on Chris Battle, Nelly Deuce, and Corey Duke in a 5-man scramble.
Yep. Yes, I am. I could talk about Chris, but respectfully, do we need to? Because I think his resume speaks for himself. Like, the guy's been in the ring, and he's probably gonna talk about it. But like his in ring experience by himself outweighs all of our experiences, all of the experience of the other four guys all together. Like,
Yeah,
he's been doing it for,
he's a guy.
oh my
It's
gosh.
been a long time. You can go look him up on YouTube. Would you ever see the match with him and Brian Danielson?
Oh, I've seen his matches with Danielson, Rhino. I've also seen his
Yeah,
matches with him and his brother.
yeah. The Battle Brothers. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
tag
Battle
team.
Bro, yeah,
Yeah,
the Battle Bros. Oh my gosh, he's when you talk about veteran of the game, and no offense to you, but we I kind of give him the moniker of Professor as well,
I believe it. Yeah,
because he has a whole bunch of knowledge that he's willing to share with Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. He's willing to share it, but
yeah.
he will teach us some stuff, but he won't teach us everything. So
Right. Wow, that's yeah, makes sense.
yeah, so but yeah, as far as this match goes, it is definitely a match that everybody has to lock in for, because you got five guys in the ring. And even though the story is like, four rookies against one veteran, it's way bigger than that. It is way, way bigger than that. It's all about who
Yeah.
wants to, in that ring, to prove that they are the better wrestler, who is the better man. And that's
Right.
what I, Kaizo, want to prove. Because nobody is willing to knuckle up with a guy like me. Ain't nobody willing to throw hands with me. Like Deuce, he's got height. But he got height, but anybody can chop a tree down with a few kicks, especially with my kicks. You see my kicks.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
And Corey Duke, athleticism and all that. But all I gotta do is keep him grounded. That's the game plan. Keep him grounded as well as Deuce. And Nelly, he's got a lot of drive. But does he have that same drive when I can just do one swift strike to the throat, and he's struggling to breathe, and keep his air in his lungs? We'll see. And as far as Battle goes, I mean, Battle's kind of seen it all, but he hasn't seen Kaizo. So, and as far as the history goes, that wasn't Kaizo. As far as the history goes, that wasn't
Yeah.
Kaizo. What you're seeing in this camera right now, this is Kaizo. This is who he has to face. the Haitian Hellfighter. So as far as Saturday goes, next Saturday, November 16th, at the JCC of Woodbridge, everybody better tape their wrists up, man, because I got my own wrist tape. And to be honest, it's got a lot of blood. Thirsty. It's bloodthirsty.
All right, that is Saturday, November 16th, JCC of Greater New Haven, that is in Woodbridge, Connecticut. Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling presents Mania in Paradise. It's the biggest show of the year. It's a beautiful building. I want everybody to come down, grab tickets, come down and watch an excellent night of pro wrestling. When Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling is in the JCC, it's a special night. They've been a regular there for the last few years, putting on bangers. I want everybody to come down and check this show out. So why don't you before we get out of here, throw your socials out. Just say how people can get in touch with you.
Oh, it's easy. So so as far as I know, check me out. I think I have the same username in 3 of these platforms. GRZA Kaizo. That's the social handle for Instagram, Twitter/X, and I think it's the same one for YouTube as well, because I'm hoping to upload some new YouTube channels. So anytime you guys can make a match, which is already frustrating as it is, you can go to my YouTube and watch some matches over there. And obviously Haitian Strong Style in the TikTok, because everybody, TikTok is one of the biggest platforms in the world these days. And if you want to book me, I'm sure I can't really say what my email is because it's very complicated to put in words, but I'm pretty sure I'll post that soon. I'm
I
accepting
can post
bookings,
that in
man.
the comments I'll post it in the comments. You can text it to me and I'll put it in the comments. So people get in touch with Kaizo, because this guy's gonna impress you. I promise. He's gonna put make your show that much better. I want to thank you for joining the show, and I'm gonna have you back in the future.
Yes, please have me back. I have no problem talking about, what I wanted to do in this conversation that we didn't get to do was really discuss Prime NWA/TNA, because one of the guys nobody, yeah, we got to talk about that conversation, and I'll throw an Easter egg out there. There's a very particular wrestler that nobody talks about that I'm a huge fan of, and let's just say he is an alpha male.
Oh man, we're gonna have to do a special episode just on that coming down. So that's definitely in the works for the future. I want to say thank you for stopping by. We had a couple technical difficulties, but I want everybody to go check out Kaizo. Go check out his matches on YouTube. Make sure you get down to the JCC on November 16th. Come out to every other Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling show. It's always a fun time.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Rick Del Santo. You are a busy man, and you were able to fit me such a guy like me into your schedule. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for the exposure. And as far as everybody else goes, you better open your ears up. You better open your eyes up, because Kaizo, he ain't going nowhere anywhere soon. The only places he's going is in the ring or in your camera phones. That's it. That's all I gotta say about it.